What's up, guys? Wes back with Auto Mafia Racing, and we're coming to you on this beautiful, not really, kind of foggy, really humid, super hot Florida morning, but it's going to be a good video today because we are starting our budget Coyote swap. So we're going to jump right into it, guys. If you don't know what the Coyote is, it is the 4-valve, 5-liter motor from Ford, dual overhead cam, makes roughly 400 wheel horsepower stock and about 350 to 375 foot-pounds of torque. So it's a fantastic motor. With mods, you can get up to almost 500 naturally aspirated horsepower, and it'll handle up to about 800 horsepower boosted. So these come in your 2011 and newer Mustangs and the 2011 and newer F-150s. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on our swap. So first thing that you gotta do when you're going to swap is you have to figure out what car you wanna swap. Now for us, it was a pretty easy choice. I chose our 1989 Ford Mustang LX. This was a it was a V8 car, but it's got some things that need fixed. We got the motor pulled and everything already, but we got to get rid of some of the fuel lines that are a little messed up that we're going to replace, pull the exhaust out of the way. But you really just want to find a car that doesn't need a super amount of work. Now ours is ridiculously clean on the inside. Tommy's been working hard getting her cleaned up, all black leather and suede, which is part of why we chose this car. This car already had a basically show-stopping interior, which makes it a prime candidate for a swap because it's already super clean. If you're gonna start with something even cheaper, you can go with something like a new Edge, like this one, which you can pick up for basically nothing, or you can go with a not quite as nice foxbody. Tommy's opening her up for us. Again, you can see black leather and suede everywhere, kicker sound system. This is a prime candidate for a swap. She only needs a better engine, better transmission, and a couple of other things to get her down. So let's start with that. Where do you get an engine? You can either find one on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. You can buy a new motor from several different companies out there. Get one on eBay used or LKQ. You're gonna pay anywhere from the low end of like $1,000 for a high mileage, probably something wrong with it motor, all the way up to $10,000 to $20,000 for a built or brand new motor. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of these choices. I'm gonna go over a couple of the differences between the generations real quick, as well as the differences between the F-150 and the Mustang motor. So what most guys doing this swap opt to do is get the truck motor. The reason for that is it is a cheaper motor. You're gonna get it for about half the price as you can buy a Mustang motor for. Nobody's really sure why that is. It comes with about a point lower compression and it has a different intake set of cams. So essentially to make it a GT motor, you're gonna swap the intake manifold off the top, which you pretty much should do anyways with like a ported 2018 intake manifold or a Boss 302 or something of that nature. And then all you have to do is swap the camshafts out from a GT. A lot of guys go for the Boss camshafts because they're readily available, and so are the GTs. You can buy them brand new for just a couple $100, or you can go ahead and upgrade and do like the comp cam set of their high energy cams or anything like that. You're gonna see decent gains and really use that high RPM power when you do that. So we opted for a cheap method and we eBayed for about $1,000 an F-150 engine. Now, the guys are getting it pulled apart and they're gonna start cleaning it up, getting all of the exhaust components or front accessories off of it, everything like that. So like I said, about $1,000 for an F-150 motor. Now this is a first generation Coyote, meaning it is a 2011 to 2014 Coyote. And these ones have the lowest amount of horsepower because they're the first ones in the batch. So like I said, the truck motors have a little less horsepower. They're gonna make in the 380 range with stock cams and that lower compression. But as everybody knows, lower compression is good for boost, so it's still a very easy, readily available, and very good choice for your motor. So the differences in engines, guys, between the generations. Like I said, 11 to 14 is your first generation Coyote in both the F-150 and the Mustang GT. So going up from there, the motor changes a little bit in 15 to 17. That is your Gen 2 motor. things get a little bit closer together in regards to the truck versus GT platform at this time. And then at the 18 and newer stage, that is the Gen 3 Coyote. It gets direct injection, and it is an absolute monster, which is fairly easy actually to make that 500 rear-wheel horsepower naturally aspirated on. It is just a great motor that comes with about 460 at the crank from the factory. So it's an easy to hop up, but it is gonna be your most expensive option. So most of you guys probably aren't gonna do that. So for your budget minded, do what we did, grab a truck motor. Now you say, okay, I got my truck motor. We got a truck motor. Now, what are we going to mate it to in order to put power to the ground? Now, you have several options. So this car came with a T5 transmission. You can get a T45 out of a new edge like the one out there, but those options really aren't gonna be the best because, let's be honest, you can snap a T5 with like 300 foot-pounds of torque. That's all they're rated for, so you're gonna wanna upgrade. Now, an easy upgrade to do is going to be the 700 R4 or the 4R70. So here's the 4R70. This is out of the new edge that's out there. This one is. We were going to use this transmission because it is easy to get for a couple $100. You're gonna drop another $600 to $700 on a controller for it, and then it will be a fully controlled transmission. We use US Shift. It's an easy option, works great. Plug and play with their wiring harness, which I like. I'm a big fan of plug and play. So that's the easy part. That's your auto transmission. Of course, you can mate it to a built C4 or a Power Glide or any of those other transmissions, but for your budget-minded guys, that is the way to go. It's gonna hold the power. It bolts right on because guess what, guys? It's a mod motor. Your Coyotes, your 4.62 valves, your 4.63 valves, they all have the same bell housing, so they're gonna fit the same transmissions, which is just awesome. So you can use any of those transmissions. Now, this car, we decided against using the 4R70 on for one simple reason. And that simple reason is this car, as you can see with some lines, it was already a stick car. It's a clutch, it is a manual transmission car, so it already has everything in place for it. We're just gonna have to adapt a few little things to make it all work correctly. Now, the transmission that we chose to go with is a T56 out of a 2004 Cobra. Now, that is one of the best transmissions that Ford has really ever put out. It is a great transmission, and it's readily available. You can get it on eBay, Facebook, whatever. We grabbed ours for about 2,500 bucks, 2,600 since he's gonna deliver it to us, and that's what we're gonna throw in this car. So we get a 6-speed transmission. It's capable of handling all the power that we can throw at it. If we do break it, we can easily rebuild that transmission and make it handle way more power. So that is probably your best bet for a manual transmission. If you want new, you can get the T56 Magnum or even the XL, depending on what you're gonna put it in, from Tremec. Those guys are awesome. We're good friends with them. So if you need one of those transmissions, hit us up. Also, you can use their TR6060 or anything like that from them. Those are all good transmissions if you want to keep the 5-speed or T56 6-speed. So that's going to give us a nice gear ratio because this Coyote will like to rev high. With a 2018 intake, we will rev these things basically to 8,000 RPM or a little more depending on the setup. Now, since it's an old truck motor with, you don't want to bet on the miles on these things, guys. Because let's be honest, most people in these junkyard guys, they don't either know or care what the mileage is. So if they advertise it and it says 120, just bet that it's probably 180,000 miles. So you're gonna wanna do a refresh on a lot of things on the motor. Do you have to? Yes. Should you? Yes. I guess do you have to? Technically no, but you really should. So moving on, we've selected our motor, we've selected our transmission. Both are pretty cheap options. We're really only $3,500 into the transmission and the motor together at this point. So how do you actually bolt it into your Coyote? Or bolt it into your Coyote? How do you bolt your Coyote into your car? Now that's gonna happen with a Kmember. Now with a fox body, we cannot use the stock Kmember. Things get in the way, it doesn't fit. This is made for a push rod motor. It is not made for the mod motor. The cheapest way to do it is to get the car we have outside. It's to get a mod motor car, a cheap new edge that had a 4.6 in it, pull that Kmember out, and then put that Kmember under your fox body. Yes, it will fit. It bolts right up. You could weld it if you don't want to bolt it on. I don't recommend that. Ours was welded on. It sucked to get off, didn't it, Tommy?
Yeah, it did.
We had to air chisel that thing off.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
Yeah, sketchy and not very much fun. So we did all that basically preparing to do this. Now this fox body, it is clean, but it is still 4-lug. And although we love the Cobra wheels that are on it, they are the 4-lug fake Cobras. So they're gonna come off in lieu of an 8.8 that we pulled out of our new edge and the 5-lug front from our new edge. Once again, we picked this new edge up for $1,000. We're gonna be able to sell parts off of it. We're gonna sell the heads and we're basically parting out the rest of the car, but we stole everything that we needed from it to make this car 5-lug. Now, that is not a 100% needed thing to do. You can 100% run your car, especially a fox body that has an 8.8 with the 4-lug setup. But we're going to eventually sell this car, so it is more sellable and there's way more wheel options with the 5-lug bolt pattern. So that's what we're gonna do with that. Now, to make it really, really easy to make this motor run, you have a couple options. Standalone is my favorite option. Why? They just make more sense, guys. Pure and simple. The cost on them is coming down, so they just make more sense to actually run. The main option that everybody uses is the Ford Control Pack, which is basically a standalone system that you can wire in. It hooks to the motor with just plug and play, and you only have to wire a couple things in. Comes with a fuse box, fan control, and essentially a stock Ford Copperhead ECU. Now that gives you pretty much unlimited control on the motor, but against a stock ECU, it has its limitations. So what we're gonna opt for is actually the Holley Terminator X kit. Now that kit runs about $2,000. It is plug and play for the motor, and we'll wire it into the car. It comes with a gauge panel as well already, so we don't even have to worry about the gauges. We're gonna have our own little LCD panel or LED panel that we're just gonna mount on the top of the steering wheel, and we can ignore the stock gauges for the most part. Wiring it in is not gonna be hard at all. It's basically plug and play, and then you hook up a few different power stuff so that the car still maintains all of its power capabilities. So we were talking about Kmembers, guys, and that you can use the Kmember out of a new edge because it'll bolt up. And again, it bolts up because it is a mod motor. All of your mod motors, 2 valves, 3 valves, 4 valves, they all fit into the same motor mounts. So, like this car right here, it uses a UPR Kmember, you can peek down in there, to put this 2-valve 4.6 in a fox body. So, the wall of Coyote swap. We're going to be using another UPR mod motor Kmember to bolt into the fox body and make it fit. Now, if you were swapping a new edge or a 3-valve, you don't even have to buy that. It just fits in. 100% will bolt up. Don't even worry about it. Couple other little things we were talking about. This is our Terminator X kit we're going to use right here. It's specific to the 11 to 12 Coyote and F-150 motor. While we are going ahead and pulling the suspension and everything, we're going to go ahead and upgrade all of our suspension to Viking and Strange components so that the car has brand new suspension under it. UPR, of course, hooked us up. They're a sponsor of this build, and it's going to have the entire UPR catalog thrown under the car, so this car will be able to ride smooth, perform great, and have lots of adjustability in it, which is really all you can ask for when it comes to a car like this. Good power, better gas mileage than it had when it was stock, and a great suspension system to really do any street strip, anything you want. So we've covered the transmission, the engine, how to bolt it in. So how do you bolt the transmission in? Again, pretty simple. There's a couple companies out there. Stifler's is the first one that comes to mind. They literally have a cross brace, a cross member that will bolt up basically any transmission you can think of to your fox body, T56, C4, whatever you want, it'll bolt up, and they've all done it behind a Coyote. So as some of you guys know, one of the really hard things to do on Coyote cars and in fox bodies and in new edges is to put long tube headers on. Well, several companies out there have actually come along with their own swap headers. So we're gonna use the BBK version of this, which is a set of long tube headers that are literally made for the Coyote motor into a fox body. So there's no banging, there's no cutting, there's no air hammering, there's no chiseling. You can bolt the headers to the motor, put the motor into the car, and boom, you're done. They even have an X pipe that bolts up to it that is correct fitment to even go to the standard fox body over axle pipes and your catback exhaust system. So it all literally is a bolt-in affair for the most part. The only hard part, and I'm gonna call it the hard part because there's like a million different ways you can do it, is going to be the front system and the serpentine system. As you can see, this one is with the F-150. It has a lot of different stuff on the front. You can change where basically all of this is with different kits. The kit that we recommend to run are basically any of the power by the hour kits because they let you use your standard 3-valve or 2-valve alternators, AC compressors, and of course your power steering. Now power steering, you have a couple different options, guys. The first option is to use one of their kits and to bolt on a 2-valve power steering system, which, as you guys know, is a Hydro Boost brake system. That Hydro Boost brake system allows the braking system to be run off the power steering lines. Now the reason for that is, if you guys see the brake booster, it is in the way because the Coyote motor has massive heads on it. So you have to use that brake system to get power steering to your power rack. Not a problem, lets you keep it, or you can just go manual, run a Flaming River rack, and have a full manual steering setup. You can do the same thing and run manual brakes. We run manual brakes in the black fox body over there that has the 2-valve in it because I didn't want to mess with the Hydro Boost setup. It's not a problem, you can do it. You can street drive it, it's literally not that bad. However, we want to keep all the creature comforts in this car. This car is going to have heat, it's going to have AC, it's got to have power steering and power brakes. So we are doing the Hydro Boost setup. Now, where can you get the Hydro Boost setup? Guess what again? We're going back to our donor car because we stole the Hydro Boost setup out of this car. The power steering and the brakes. You can see it is gone and no longer exists because it's inside getting cleaned up. That is a very easy way to get it. You can get all your lines, which is why a lot of times I'm gonna suggest buying a cheap, $1,000, $500 shell, because really you can steal everything out from it. If you get a GT, the 8.8 behind it's good, but if you don't get a GT, you can still get a 5-lug swap, you just get the bad axle. So I wouldn't steal the 7.5 axle. But other than that, that's pretty much all it takes. There's of course little odds and ends that we're gonna go through as we do this, but for now, that is your introduction to our budget Coyote swap. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this video. Comment below if you have any other suggestions or things you think we should do differently or change in our Coyote swap. But here it is. There's the motor. Transmission's on its way. We'll check in with you guys on the next video while we're getting everything set up under the car. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.